Hope you're doing great. Today I am so excited to do this video because I decided to read the first book of famous fantasy book series. This year on BookTok we saw a lot of romance books coming up, but also a lot of fantasy books. I read the famous one, A Court of Thorns and Roses, that I love so much. This is one of my favorite books ever. But I also realized that I tend to just go back to reading romance because romance is easy in the sense that I've always read that. Even though when I was younger I read a lot of dystopian books. Fantasy often means long series of books and you're like, do I want to read a 15 book series? Probably not. So I thought that I would make a series where I am reading the first book of famous fantasy book series and I am telling you if it is worth going through the pain of reading them all. I actually got this idea because I started reading Crave, which is a very famous book series. I thought I need to read more fantasy books and this is a great way to just see if it's worth it or not. I went through my TBR and I wrote down what fantasy series I wanted to start. Turns out there is a lot. So in this video we are going to do just 5 books. The first one I'm going to talk to you about is obviously Crave because I just finished it. It is the story of Grace, who just lost her parents in a car accident. She is sent to live with her uncle, who is actually the head principal of an academy in Alaska. She's from San Diego, so you can already tell the weather difference. So I've heard a lot of people compare this to Twilight, which for now I was like, I don't see it because there was kind of a lot of triangle, but not really. Yeah, there is vampire, dragon and werewolf in this academy because obviously you have to have a bit of a fantasy part. But I found that this book was very centered around the romance, not a lot about the fantasy. So for now I was like, this is a good book for someone who wants to start reading fantasy but is just very used to reading actual romance book. For me it is not really a fantasy book until the last 100 pages, but this book is like 500 pages, so I mean that's quite a long time before coming close to having a fantasy part of the book. Grace is very whiny, very weak, I would say. It really falls into the whole, oh, the girl is weak, we have to protect her, which I don't mind often, but sometimes I'm like, this is getting a bit, I mean, you need to grow up and become a powerful woman, which I really hope is going to happen one day in one book. I really hope so. Other than that, I liked it. Literally almost a romance book, so I am however very interested for the second book. I don't know how many there are. Apparently it's still quite a long series because I am seeing 7 books and 1 novella. I didn't thought it was this long. I think for now it is worth going into the second book, at least. I am intrigued to know what is going to happen next. And the fact that she seems so weak in the first book means that there is a lot of chance for a character improvement where she's just stopping relying on a man and just start doing things by herself, which I really hope is gonna happen. Anyway, there is a lot of books that we can read now. I have one on my Kindle for quite a while, so I'm not gonna let you or anyone else choose the second book. But for the 3 other books, I am thinking about writing every single one on little papers that I'm going to put somewhere, and so every single time I can just take a new one. So we might do that, or I might just choose, depends on my mood. Honestly, we have stuff to do because those are all the books and I think I can find some more. The second book that we are gonna read is A Curse of the Wolf King. It's from the Entangled with the Fae series, and it's by Tessandra Odette. I don't know if I'm saying this right. I decided to read this because I've heard about it from Sarah Corelli, and she's been loving the second book because she hasn't read the first one. She only read the second one. I think they're all good. It is a 4-book series for now, and apparently it is about Disney princess, like it's a remaster of Disney princess book, which I'm really intrigued about. So we are going to start reading this. I will update you kind of in a vlog style about what I think. So where am I in the whole Curse of the Wolf King book? I actually realized that I thought this was a Snow White retelling, and this is actually a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I don't know why I got confused between those two books, but it's actually about Beauty and the Beast. So for now we are with Gemma, who very much gives Belle energy. She loves book. We already met Gaston. I do not remember what his name is in the book. I already dislike him. I mean, I was never a Gaston fan. He was very annoying, and apparently there is a whole subplot about how Gemma actually had a bit of a past in the last city she was in, and that's why she had to move with her father to the new one. And we are introduced to a girl who I am wondering if she's not the Cinderella retelling. I need to watch if there is a Cinderella retelling, because it very much gives this vibe with evil stepsisters, stepmother who just want to get married to someone else. For now, I am actually enjoying this book. I am only 11% in. For now, it's good. I just need to put myself and actually read the book. I finally finished A Curse of the Wolf King, and I actually really liked it. It was surprising as this bandana in my hair. I know I'm trying something new. So this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I went into this book thinking it was Snow White, and I started reading it, and immediately she's like, she loves books and everything. I was like, wrong story. I think it is a good fantasy book for people who do not usually read fantasy, because honestly there was not a lot of fantasy. So this is about a world with fae and human. Obviously the Wolf King is a fae and he can transform in a wolf. There is just one thing that I am not sure, because he has a silly form and an unsilly form, and I don't know which one is which. That I just could not. I don't understand which was what. Honestly, he literally spent his whole time in a human form. There is not a lot of fantastic. I mean, there is the part with the curse of like Beauty and the Beast, because we all know the story, but honestly there is not a lot more fantastic than that. So I think this is a great book to start reading fantasy. I actually really enjoyed reading it. I will read the rest of this series. I think the funniest moment in this book is when we actually learn the real name of the Wolf King. I was shocked, and I laughed a lot. So I actually gave this book 3.75 stars, because it was not a 4, but it was really close to. I think it was not a 4 because the end just didn't do it for me. Let's just say I like main character who communicates. I am now realizing that there is a lot of books that are actually retelling. It's not always Disney princess, because I know most of the princesses come from Anderson and the Brother Grimm's and everything. What I appreciated is that between The Curse of the Wolf King and this book, A Court of Thorns and Roses, which you might know is this series one of my favorites series ever. Between those two, there is almost no similarities, but they are still both retelling of Beauty and the Beast, which I found so interesting. We can tell A Curse of the Wolf King is a story retelling. This one is a lot more subtle, but it's also a lot more world building, where you have to get into it. I had a lot more trouble getting to the first book of this series than the first book of The Curse of the Wolf King. But I think for The Curse of the Wolf King, I would not have continued reading it if it was still about the same character. But at the same time, I think they are two different series with different purposes, but they started with the same intention of being a story retelling. So the next series that I wanted to start is actually also from Sarah J. Maas. She has three really popular fantasy series. There is A Court of Thorns and Roses. Then we have the A Throne of Glass series and the Crescent City series. I think in this video I am gonna start A Throne of Glass series because I've been dying to know. And for now, the Crescent City books are really big. But the problem with the Throne of Glass series is that I actually didn't know in what order I should read it. So I started looking and I learned that there is 5 novellas that she put out after the first Throne of Glass book, and I was getting kind of confused because I searched on the internet and people were saying that you had to read them between the book 3 and 4, but at the same time there was people that said we had to read the 5 novellas before reading the first book of the Throne of Glass. And literally on Goodreads it says that you have to read the novellas before the first book. And then I saw that Sarah J. Maas herself said that the novellas were actually a prequel and it was better to read them first. So I read the novellas just so I actually really talks about the first book, so you can know if you have to read the novellas before or not at all even. There is 5 novellas. There is The Assassin and the Pirate Lord, The Assassin and the Healer, The Assassin and the Desert, The Assassin and the Underworld, and The Assassin and the Empire. They are very quick book, between 90 to 110 pages. I was actually quite confused at the beginning. It was just a bit hard to get into, but honestly once you get through the 31st pages, you just get it right from the start and you can start getting into it. So we are following, there is the guild, and then there is some king of the assassin, and we have Arabin, which I hate, and then we have Celine, I don't remember how to say her name exactly, Selahene. This is a main girl, Selahene. I think this is how you say her name. And then we have Sam. Way easier name. Love this guy also. Love him so much. It is very predictable books, but that's something that I don't mind actually. Well, there was something that I was like shook, but most of them was really predictable. I gave the 2 first book 3 stars. The 3rd book with The Assassin and the Desert was actually 4 stars. Really good. My favorite one was The Assassin and the Underworld, 4.25, just because there was more romance in it and I love romance. And then the last book was also a 4. The main problem with those books, and that really made me insane, but I think this is just a personality and we have to go with the flow, is that this girl is insufferable. I don't like her most of the time when she talks about herself, because she thinks she is literally superior to everyone, and I was like, we love a confident girl. You don't have to always just push it at everyone's face. I know that there is a lot of people who read A Court of Thorns and Roses and the Throne of Glass series and say that they didn't like Sarah J. Maas books because her characters are always perfect and beautiful and the best at everything. I don't feel that for the Court of Thorns and Roses book, even though Fairy had a lot of freaking luck in those books. But I have to admit that it was a lot of I am the best thrown in my face during those novellas. So the 5 novellas are reunited in one book, which is The Assassin's Blade, and normally you read this before reading the front of class first book. I just read the synopsis of the front of class book. It picks up right after the last novella. We are gonna start. As always, I'm reading on my Kindle, and we're gonna start to read The Front of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Okay, update about The Front of Glass. I am very mad at myself because, well, I just got spoiled from TikTok because I've been on the Akuta TikTok for 2 days now, which I've never been on it. Even though I've read those books way earlier in the year, I just got spoiled on a big thing. And I'm mad at myself because I should not have done this. I know better. A theory that I had about the Assassin's Blade is actually apparently wrong. I'm so sad. And I still haven't read the book yet. Oh. What happened is that Linoa, which we saw in the Assassin's Blade novellas, has been sent to prison because of the fact that she killed a lot of people. Apparently there is a big competition where noble can choose a champion who are going to fight each other, and the champion who wins the whole competition has to serve the king for like 5 years, 6 years, something like this. Linoa got chosen as a champion by the prince, who is called Dorian. It is very weird because I know people who are called Dorian. That's a weird name to see in the book. And I am 27% in. She is currently training with all of the other champions. Oh my god, she is so self-absorbed. This does not change from the novellas, but right now she is not known as the infamous assassin that she was known as before going to prison. She's just considered a jewel thief, and she's the only woman, so let's just say that they do not care about her, and that makes her insane, and I found it funny. I just finished the first book in the Front of Glass series. I honestly liked it less than the novellas, even though I really liked it still. I just think there was something missing. The pacing of the book was not as quick as the novellas, which is normal because it is a bigger book. The romance was was not expecting this. For those who don't like this, there is a love triangle going on. I was not really expecting this. I have a lot of thoughts, but I just finished it, so I want to settle down and I will do a recap of every book at the end of the video, so stay tuned for my whole thoughts on it. The last 2 books in this video are gonna be Dance of Thieves and The Kingdom of the Wicked, I think it is called. And I don't know yet which one I'm gonna start. Probably Kingdom of the Wicked, but I might just read both of them at the same time. But I think I'm gonna start with Kingdom of the Wicked. I've heard there is a lot of romance in this one. And for Dance of Thieves, I've heard so many people saying that this was the ultimate enemies to lover book. I'm really excited to see this because I love enemies to lovers, but I'm really happy to like the Front of Glass series because I really wanted to read those. I'm getting ready for work, but I read approximately, I think, 10% or something like this in Dance of Thieves. I'm 12% in, and I love this book so far. It is so interesting. So we are following Kazi, who is, I don't really know what she is. We are gonna say she's a soldier, a guard of a special elite for a queen, a new queen who apparently is very different from everyone who was the crown before. It's a dual point of view. We are also following Jazz, I think it's his name. His dad just died, so he's been crowned king. They call him a patray. I can already feel, I knew it was an enemies to lovers, and I already can tell that I'm gonna love it. I really like the writing style. It was a bit hard to understand at the beginning because there is a lot of new name and not a lot of explanation. So I don't think it is like a book for people who are not used to read fantasy, even though for now it's more of a dystopian book because I don't see the fantasy aspect, but I'm sure I will see it. They both got kidnapped for human labor. The fact that they've been kidnapped is gonna be like a forced proximity aspect, which honestly, if your king gets kidnapped on the first day literally of him being a king, I think that means a lot. But I am really happy to read this book. I didn't thought I would love it this much, and I'm also happy that it's only a duology because I need to stop starting fantasy series with like 12,000 books in it. There is Dance of Thieves and I think it's Wolf of Thieves. I freaking love this book for now. Hi. So I'm literally on the floor of my room, but I finished 2 days ago Dance of Thieves, and oh my god, I love this book so much. It was amazing. I actually gave it 5 stars. Even though the end was a bit rushed, it seemed like she didn't know she would make a second book. And suddenly she was like, okay, we need the potential to have a second book, but at the same time, like kind of wrap up, but not really. The end, it was a bit cringe. I know, if you read the book, the last scene, before the last scene, because the last scene was the cliffhanger. The scene before that, I was like, I didn't like that moment, but everything else is absolutely amazing. I love this book. I think this is a very soft fantasy. There is not a lot of brain power to use to just understand the dynamics, the politics and everything. I am personally someone who loves the politics in books. I found it so interesting. I feel like this one had a good half and half. I love this one so much. I am very shocked. I didn't thought it would be a 5 stars. And I just started Kingdom of the Wicked. I think I like this one. This is very weird. There is a lot of ghosts and everything. I didn't thought it would be about that. But for now, I am very intrigued. So this is it. I finished 5 fantasy books. I just read Kingdom of the Wicked. I was not expecting to like this. I was absolutely not expecting the story, and I have to admit that I am going to read the rest of the story because I am so confused about what actually happened at the end. I don't want to spoil anything, but I don't know with whom it happened. I wrote down the book and I'm going to do a little recap. I started this video by reading Crave by Tracy Wolf, which I gave this book 4 stars. It is a very sweet fantasy. That is not the kind of fantasy that I'm thinking about when I am talking about fantasy, because this is very mid. I don't understand what is going on with my hair, so I'm just gonna put it like this. Yeah, I will call it a very soft fantasy, like Twilight. It enters this type of fantasy. It's very much only vampire, dragons and everything. I really got attached to the characters, even though it is very childish, if you know what I mean. It was still good and interesting. It was just not the type of fantasy that I like the most. And to be honest, the first book is the best one. I read the second one and let's say it does not get better than the first one. Then I read A Curse of the Wolf King by Desandra Odette, which I gave 3.75 stars to. It is also a very soft fantasy because the only thing is that it is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and the man is actually someone who can transform in a wolf, but you honestly almost never see him in a beast form. So the magic part is present with the curse and everything, like in Beauty and the Beast, but that's it. There's not a lot more than that. So once again, I think this is a great book to start reading to fantasy if you're coming from the more romance genre. I think it is easy to get into, very quick to read, and I love story retelling. I am so excited to read the rest of this series. This is the Front of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. So I started reading The Assassin Blades, which overall I would give a 4 stars. To be precise, I gave The Assassin and the Pirate Lord 3 stars, The Assassin and the Healer 3 stars, The Assassin and the Desert 4 stars, The Assassin and the Underworld 4 stars, and The Assassin and the Empire 4.25 stars. I don't know why, and I think I already said that, I don't know why people say to read this later when you already know some. Honestly, just start with this. You get into the whole series very quick and you understand everything, and I think this is the best way to learn about the different characters. And I have to admit, even though Selina really has a big she has a big ego, let's just say that, I really love her, and even more in Front of Glass. I think Front of Glass was very well done for a first fantasy book, because I think that was her first one before the Akota series. I give Front of Glass 3.75 stars. However, I wrote down a few things that just rubbed me the wrong way about Front of Glass. I say that we are suddenly introduced to Faye and talking about some kind of magic at the beginning of the book, even though in the novellas and at the beginning of the book we have absolutely no talk about magic whatsoever. So I felt like that was thrown out there a bit weirdly, which I suppose is for the rest of the series. You already know something's gonna happen with this, but I know that a big controversy about those books are the love interest for Selina. And I have to admit that there was a lot of action in the book and then a bit of romance, which I loved. But sometimes there is this weird love triangle, and I absolutely did not care for at some moment. I was like, just shut up and can we just fight? And then there was Ghost, and I did not get that either, where they were coming from, but they were cool and they added a lot to the book. But that was very sudden. I read Dance of Steel by Mary Pearson. This is my top right there. Do not acknowledge it. I gave this book 5 stars, and thinking back, I'm like, was it really 5 stars? But I look back at some footage of me reading it, and I can see how much I love this book. So I think that for now I am going to let it stay at the 5 stars mark. But this book was an incredible enemies to lovers romance. I really like the politics. I'm realizing that in fantasy books I absolutely love politics. There was a mafia book that I read earlier on that had a lot of politics in it, and I loved it also. I just love political mind game in books. Mary E. Pearson really did something with this book, and I honestly cannot tell you how much you need to read this book. This was really great. Then I finished with Kingdom of the Wicked, which was based in Italy but gave me very much Mexican vibe, with the whole witches and demons and devils who come from under and can go out at night. I might be just not informed enough, but for me it was part of the Mexican culture. Maybe not. She is a witch, daughter of the moon, and with her sister they both have matching necklace that they cannot put together because otherwise their grandmother told them that it will be the end of the world. So they each have one because it protects them or something like this. The devil are each named after one of the 7 sins, and they are called the wicked, and their grandmother does not want them to go out at night because the wicked can take them away. We have witches ghosts, demons, which was incredible. I really like this book actually. I gave this one 4 stars, I think. Yeah, it was a bit complicated to get into the whole witches and powers and wicked and demons and what was going on, but mainly the thing is that there was witches that were getting killed by the wicked. Apparently we didn't really know who was killing them, but her grandmother was sure that it was the wicked. One day her sisters ends up dead. She gets into a whole revenge kick where she wants to find her sister's murderer and just end them, and she ends up becoming an ally with one of the wicked. The tension between her and one of them was absolutely magnificent. I loved it also. I've been loving doing this video. I really want to do this more often and make it a series, because there is so many fantasy series that I could start and tell you everything about. Tell me if you're interested in me doing more video like this. Don't forget to put the thumbs up and subscribe. That would mean so much to me. I will see you very soon. Bye.